What's up everybody, Matt Maran here for another weekly updates. There's lots of exciting news to go over here this week, and the first news story here is from Acura. So they surprised us with another little teaser image of the Integra that's coming next year. And so this time we get to see the back end of it here, and that reveals not only the taillights and the rear hatch design, so it confirms, the hatch again, but also it's actually going to be a four-door coupe kind of sedan, and that's kind of exciting as well. It looks like it might even have like frameless windows and stuff, which is cool, and also would be kind of a little bit of a 90s throwback in some ways as well. Then there's this quick little teaser video as well that provides a little sound clip. And it sounds very reminiscent of the older high revving Honda motors with their high red lines and sweet sounds. And so we will see, if that is actually a sound clip of this future car or if they just pulled that from somewhere else. Acura officially, all they're saying still is Integra returns in 2022. The 5th generation Integra will be a premium sport compact with striking 5-door design. More details about the all-new Integra will be available closer to its 2022 introduction, which means don't expect any kind of reveal at the LA Auto Show, in a month or two or anything like that. This is going to be something that's still a little ways off, but great that they're giving us so many teasers here so far. And, all very exciting stuff. If they somehow manage to make this thing actually be really good with a manual and having a high revving motor like the older Hondas, and it sounds really good. I mean, I wasn't expecting any of that, but if it actually, turns out to be that awesome, that would be very cool. So we'll have to wait and see. For some more exciting news, Chevy randomly surprised us with a full picture, not shadowy, not teaser, just a straight up normal picture here of the new Z06, even though we weren't supposed to see the full thing until October 26th. But there's one picture of it here now. We can see it's got a completely different front bumper with a little ZL1 inspiration there as far as the ducting there for the scoops and stuff. Along with there's some new wheels on the wider fenders. You can see both front and back have been punched out a little bit. You get a new trim piece to extend the look of the side scoops there. And there's a new spoiler in the back, we can tell. But of course we can't see the rest of the back end. The vehicles that were spied have a unique exhaust tip set up and stuff. So we'll have to wait to see all that. But anyway, yeah, they say the full reveal is still happening October 26th, but after this little surprise, maybe we'll start seeing more other, shots of it here and there in the next month or so. We'll have to wait and see, but stay tuned. At the very least, we're still less than a month away from the full reveal of the Z06 and all the details, hopefully. So very exciting to see that. For a little bit of Chevy speculation here as a follow-up to last week's story about the Camaro and, my speculation that the teased image that the GM Design Instagram page posted that was, supposedly other people were thinking that was going to be the killed off Z06 or Z28 that's not happening anymore. I suggested it might be the ZL1, and I think I wasn't the only one thinking that as well because there's a YouTube channel called Lethal Garage, and they talk with multiple sources that actually kicked off some of these new rumors here this week. And so, according to his channel, they're saying 2023 will be the last model year for the Camaro, and it's going to go out with a version called either the Final Edition, the Heritage Edition, or the Collector's Edition. It's going to be one of those three. Whatever it's called, though, the channel's claiming that it's going to actually, for the ZL1, it's going to have 20 more horsepower for 670 horsepower total, and that would commemorate the 67 Camaro, and that's kind of why they're doing that even number there. So we'll see if that turns out to be true. He's also saying that it's going to get all the other stuff that we've been hearing from the previous Motor Trend report as far as, getting the carbon ceramic brakes from the Blackwing CT5V, also carbon fiber accents, new rear wing, all that kind of stuff. But to add even further onto that report, Muscle Cars and Trucks did some additional digging and checked with their sources about any of this stuff, and they're the ones suggesting it'll be called the Collector's Edition. They found out that name, and they're also, according to their sources, confident that the package will be available on all Camaros, but it'll only be for the last 2,000 Camaros to roll off the production line in 2023 there. Strangely, though, Muscle Cars and Trucks claims the package will only be coming in one color, yellow. Not sure why yellow. We'll see if that turns out to be true. Yeah, so 2000 honestly sounds like a lot of Camaros to build in yellow. I mean, if it's a collector thing, I'm sure they'll still get snapped up just as investments. But yeah, not sure if 2000 people actually want a yellow Camaro, but we'll have to wait and see. But anyway, interesting to hear that little bit of tidbit of info. Some other interesting info, actually, thanks to Muscle Cars and Trucks. So they got some info about the GT500s. So we do know that people were wondering, is there going to be a convertible version of the GT500, and kind of if there's anything else planned for the S550 generation of the Mustang we have currently. And apparently one version that isn't happening is a convertible GT500. So they actually sat down, Muscle Cars and Trucks. They did an interview with Ford's Chief Product Platform and Operations Officer. And he was talking about the current Mustang platform and how it's been kind of close to being maxed out with the GT500. There's more details in the article, but he basically said they're towards the top of their capabilities for the S550 platform, and said one of the things we didn't do was a convertible variant for that reason, that it's pretty much maxed out, and that I guess if they tried to beef up the GT500 to have the extra structural rigidity to handle being a convertible and also live up to the GT500 badge and performance, I guess that's just beyond the capabilities of what the S550 platform can do, which is kind of interesting. But there's also some other really interesting tidbits here in this report, and some of the reporting that Muscle Cars and Trucks has done here in the past couple of weeks on the next generation of the Mustang. So I know, a lot of us are wondering, where's spy pictures of, the next generation Mustang? Usually we start to see that stuff around this time, if it is in fact coming towards the very end of next year or early 2023. So we have a little bit of info from them, according to their sources again, and stuff they're confident about, Muscle Cars and Trucks. So they're claiming that some of this stuff is new. That's why I'm bringing this up here. They say that the S650 platform on the next generation Mustang won't be all new. It'll just be a heavily revised version of S550. So think of kind of what GM did with going from Alpha 1 to Alpha 2, and what you got with, like the Cadillac CTS moving to the CT5 and the CTS-V to the Blackwing, and kind of stuff like that, where you're getting a completely different body, different dimensions even possibly on the outside, totally different interior. Some other improvements to the structure and all that kind of stuff, the platform, but it's not going to be, everything fresh redesign, as far as the actual underpinnings of the vehicle. So that's what they're saying. I'm inclined to believe that's a more realistic thing with the way things are going these days. Instead of investing in an entirely new ground up platform, it makes a lot more sense to just kind of use them, use up the most that you can out of the current platform and maximize your profits there. But anyway, some other interesting tidbits here. They said that engines and transmissions will carry over for S650, and that means EcoBoost, V8, and even the Predator motor for the GT500. Those will all carry over. They say they don't think the GT350's Voodoo motor will make a return or anything, unfortunately, but as far as those other three, they will return. They say that if there is going to be a hybrid version of the next generation Mustang, it will most likely arrive for a refresh of that next gen Mustang, not at launch here in a year or so. That's good news if you're someone who's, you're happy with the Coyote or the EcoBoost or the GT500, those are all going to be safe, stay intact, and even if there's no improvements, at least they're sticking around, considering, again, Camaro's just fading off into the sunset, and, who knows what Dodge is doing, because we do know at least there's going to be an electric thing in 2024 for them. So, I think that I consider that to be good news, at least. The Mustang will be sticking around with its similar formula, similar platform, and just, freshening everything up, which sounds solid as far as a game plan, in my opinion. But also, some of what all the stuff we're saying about how the V8's sticking around and all that, according to this Ford executive, they say that this is partially possible thanks to the Mach-E, saying you could make a case that the Mach-E is keeping the Mustang going. We have to meet a corporate average CO2 requirement, and if we didn't have products like Mach-E to offset products like Mustang, the Mustang would be short-lived. I kind of like how he's saying Mach-E and Mustang as very separate things there. So even he's not, anyway, I'm not going to get into the whole Mustang Mach-E thing. But anyway, so I just find that very interesting. And so, even if you're not the biggest fan of the Mach-E, if the Mach-E is the savior of the V8 normal gas Mustang and that's what keeps it around, I think that's great, and it's awesome, that the Mach-E is there to kind of save the Mustang, which is awesome. Also, now, Muscle Cars and Trucks, this is further out, so I mean, take this more with a grain of salt, but they're suggesting that after this S650 generation that comes out, the following generation, which, I mean, based on the current way that they kind of stretch out these platforms, we're talking at the earliest 2028, some analysts are saying, but most likely 2030 is when the all-new generation of the Mustang will then arrive, and they say that will be the death of the V8, and that will be an entirely electric Mustang. 2030 is the cutoff date, thereabouts. So again, a lot can change in the next 9 years. We'll see what happens, but potentially we could be finally seeing where a realistic endpoint is for a Mustang with a V8 engine. Even though Ford has repeatedly said the V8 is safe, we're keeping the V8 around, they can't keep it around forever unless some things change in the future to make that possible. So we'll have to see, but obviously I think even Ford probably doesn't have their plan set in stone yet as far as that goes. But that's what the speculation here on Muscle Cars and Trucks is saying, and so interesting to hear that. But at the very least, we still have another 8 years or so here with V8 powered Mustangs. They're going to be awesome, and just like I've always said, enjoy them while they're here, enjoy them while you can. And that's that. But anyway, interesting to hear all of that. Hopefully that gives you guys a little bit of a tidbit of information and updates here for all of you that are chomping at the bit for next generation Mustang news. But another official reveal here this week is that Jeep has revealed the 2022 Grand Cherokee, the non-L version. And while it's very similar in styling and stuff to the L, there are a few changes here and a few things that make it unique from the L version. So first off, there's going to be the 4xe version, which they went into some details on that, which I'll get to in a minute. But as for the Grand Cherokees, the regular non-L version is 2-row only, and it's about 11 inches shorter on a 5-inch shorter wheelbase, but otherwise they're basically the same outside and inside. The other dimensions, though, are slightly different as well. It's about a 1/2 inch narrower than the L. It's also a little over 1/2 inch lower than the L, which is kind of interesting. And the two previous Grand Cherokee engines will continue, so you can still get the V6 doing 293 horsepower or the 5.7 liter V8 doing 357 horsepower. But the new addition, like I said, is that 4xe, which pairs a 2-liter turbo 4 with a 100 kilowatt electric motor for a total of 375 horsepower and 470 pound-feet of torque. And so the same deal as you get in the Wrangler 4xe, which I'll be reviewing here in the next month or so. So I've already reviewed it, but I'm so backed up on videos, but that will be posted. Anyway, so you'll hear all my thoughts on that powertrain in that video, but that actually makes it the strongest performer in the range here for the Grand Cherokees as well, even having more horsepower and torque than the V8, at least for now. We'll see if they do any kind of SRT versions, but at least in the meantime, this is the top version. So that 4xe runs a 17.3 kilowatt hour battery, and it can do 25 miles of electric range as well, which is cool. And the 2-row version is also the only version to be offered with the Trailhawk package. It's available with any of the 3 engines, although in the V6 and the V8 it gets an extra 0.4 inches of ground clearance, most likely because of the battery packs and stuff for the 4xe that are required. And so with the air suspension's max height all the way maxed out, you can get 11.3 inches of ground clearance in the non-hybrid Grand Cherokees. And non-Trailhawks, by the way, get 8.4 inches of ground clearance still, very solid ground clearance, even for the non-Trailhawk version. But as far as those Trailhawks, they also get an electronic sway bar disconnect, which is the only vehicle in this segment to offer that. It also gets all-terrain tires, skid plates, tow hooks, unique bumpers, badging, and accents, along with the top Quadra Drive 2 4-wheel drive system. Inside, it can get as simple as cloth seats still, so you can still get a pretty bare bones one if you'd like, although we don't have pricing for those yet, so who knows how cheap it'll go, but you can get it as simple as that. But then you can go all the way up to what you see here in these press photos of having 3 screens on the dash and looking almost as nice as the Grand Wagoneer on the inside, honestly, which is kind of impressive. It can get that lavish in here. And so cargo space, by the way, is 9.2 cubic feet less than the L on the inside, but it still is 1.4 cubic feet more space than the old Grand Cherokee. And there's an additional 4 cubic feet of interior space as well. So it should be a little more roomy than the old one and have a little more cargo space still. So that's all improved. But yeah, like I said, there's no pricing for any of these yet, but they'll be arriving late this year for the regular gas versions, and then the 4xe will be following in early 2021. I think it's really great improvements, and so cool to see that. We'll just have to wait and see just how expensive they get with that updated pricing. Rolls-Royce this week, though, also teased their new electric coupe, which will be called the Spectre. And so even though this silhouette looks familiar to the Wraith, they say this car is an all-new vehicle on the company's newest platform that underpins the Phantom, Ghost, and Cullinan. And it's actually a pretty cool moment in Rolls-Royce history, too, because 121 years ago, Charles Rolls drove an electric car made by a company called Columbia, and his impressions were the electric car is perfectly noiseless and clean. There is no smell or vibration, and they should become very useful when fixed charging stations can be arranged. But for now, I do not anticipate that they will be very serviceable, at least for many years to come. So it took much longer than even he was probably expecting, because I mean, anyone who knows their history on the very early days of cars, electric and gas were like neck and neck, and there was several different companies doing both, and then gas kind of won out, and that ended up being the thing that we had for the past over 100 years. But electric was something that's been around for a long time for cars, and so kind of funny that it's coming back to that. And so now Rolls-Royce is kind of using that quote as their mantra as far as what their goal is with developing this vehicle. They're wanting it to be perfectly noiseless and clean, and you see that even in the wrap there on this prototype. And so it's just kind of crazy, that he had the foresight to kind of envision that this is something that totally could take off someday. So anyway, other stuff here though. Rolls-Royce says this is finally happening, having an electric Rolls-Royce, because they say, we have not been satisfied that available technology could support the Rolls-Royce experience until now. And so the car undergoing testing, it's actually going out and actually driving on real roads already. And they say this is actually not a prototype, it's the real thing. It still is pre-production, so I'd consider that a prototype. But regardless, this isn't just like some hacked up Wraith that they're running, a test mule on. Like, this is the finished thing supposedly already. And they say that they have conceived the most demanding testing program in Rolls-Royce history, covering 2.5 million kilometers, a simulation of more than 400 years of use for a Rolls-Royce on average. And we will travel to all four corners of the world to push this new motor car to the limit. And so lots and lots of driving that they have in store for these, and then deliveries are going to be scheduled to start here in late 2023 is the goal right now. So very interesting to see that. It just makes too much sense. I mean, really, electric is the ultimate thing as far as luxury cars goes. I mean, Rolls-Royce has spent the past 100 years trying to make the gas engine as quiet as possible, and so this is like the perfect solution to go electric. And I'm sure you'll see all the other Rolls-Royces go electric in short order and probably all swap over to the same powertrain once this Spectre comes out, which I gotta say, I love the name too. It's so Rolls-Royce and so cool. Anyway, so cool to see that. Lamborghini's also working on an EV, supposedly, according to Auto News. Their new report here claims that the long-rumored 2+2 Lamborghini that's been kind of something we've been hearing about for a long time now, supposedly Lamborghini, they've been talking about adding a fourth model to the lineup, possibly being a 2+2, and now that model could end up being their first electric vehicle. So Lamborghini CEO already confirmed that a fourth model is coming, so we know that is something that's actually happening, and it's already in development, they say, but it won't be arriving, according to Lamborghini officially, until the second half of this decade. So we're talking 2025 at the earliest for this. Officially, though, Lamborghini says that they haven't decided on the platform or body style yet, and that the final decision for that will come next year. But obviously, if these rumors are true, then, it sounds like internally they probably figured it out already, and they just haven't announced it yet. But who knows, take this with a grain of salt. But if they are right at Auto News here about it being an electric 2+2, they claim it'll be arriving sometime between 2025 and 2027 is their range. And they say that Porsche and Audi will contribute to it as well. It could potentially use the Project Artemis platform, which is the hugely expensive, brand new platform that isn't, it's even beyond what we have with the Taycan and all the future Audi stuff coming in the next few years. We're talking like 2026, I believe, for that platform, and that could be potentially what this is on, but that's really kind of far out in conjecture there. But the last thing here is regarding the styling, with Lamborghini CEO quoted as saying that, at least as far as whatever the fourth model is that they're talking about, they say officially, this car has to be recognized as something different to what we've done before, a new way of designing cars. So expect something very bold and Lamborghini-like, but maybe a little bit different than maybe the, sharp edges that we've seen on all the Lamborghinis here in the past, forever, basically. So we'll have to wait and see, what they end up doing with that. But again, very far off, but kind of interesting to hear nonetheless. Polestar, they're also talking about their future plans here, especially since they're going to have a IPO coming up here for their company. And so they revealed a little bit more. And so Auto Express actually sat down and interviewed their CEO, who said, it kind of talked about how, the Polestar 3 SUV is the next one up. They're saying that's going to be like Cayenne size, though, so maybe a little bit larger. And more expensive. But their CEO did say that a smaller, more affordable SUV called the Polestar 4 is going to be arriving in 2023 to compete in the $50,000 kind of range there. The Model Y, the Mach-E's, all that kind of stuff. So part of this is because they say they want the Polestar brand to be accessible to lots of people. Also, they want to really grow their sales. You got to go to the volume segments, and this is one of them. So that makes sense as well. The only thing that doesn't make sense is the naming, because you have the 3, which is bigger, and the 4 in all the other hierarchies in the European automotive world. It's always higher numbers is better. In this, higher numbers is smaller, and just kind of an interesting turn of events there as far as that. But anyway, that's the plan there, is for the 4 to be sportier, both in its design and in its performance. And so the only image we have here is this teaser they put out here recently of all their future models lined up. And so it's the middle covered model there is going to be the one that's going to be the 4. And so what you're seeing on the left of that is the 3, and the 5, which is the precept concept, which is going to be turned into a production vehicle and be their first, larger electric sedan. That's coming, I think, after the 4. But yeah, so exciting to get a little bit more info on that, and we'll see, how that all plays out there for Polestar. They just need to get some more dealerships out there too, because they're very sparse with their dealer network, and so hopefully, they kind of grow that as they try and grow the range too. But the last news story here this week is, just last week, Rivian started rolling their R1T trucks off the production line there in Illinois, and this week we have another startup electric company rolling vehicles off the assembly line here. So this week, Lucid has started building the very first Airs, and so those are now a reality. They are going to be delivered to customers starting in October here, and it's very impressive. They have an official EPA rating of 520 miles of range on a charge, which is over 100 miles more than what Tesla can do now. And Lucid says this is thanks to their proprietary EV technology that makes it possible to travel more miles using less battery energy. And so, yeah, I think they're going to be starting with the top versions, which are like 170 grand. So when you see one of these for the first time on the road, you're looking at a very expensive car. But we do know they're going to be coming down more to regular Tesla Model S pricing, and be sub 100,000 eventually for those later versions. But just great to, again, see another startup company we've been hearing about for years actually becoming a reality and rolling off the line and finally being a real car company building real cars. And so, yeah, great to see that. We're going to be seeing lots of new brands here popping up over the next few years. So keep an eye out for those Rivians and those Lucids. But yeah, so that's it for all of the news this week, guys. Let me know your thoughts on all this stuff in the comments below. Thank you guys very much for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Take care.